of what you're saying. I want to talk about, Moon Mullins is a great example. The Steelers Hall of Honor, anybody who's in Canton, as you are, 1988, your induction, automatically in the Hall of Honor. But I've talked to all the folks that I've mentioned when I introduced you, and they all were thrilled about the Hall of Honor because it gives the Steelers a chance to honor those players who are not in and may not get to Canton, but were significant players on whatever era teams. And I'm wondering if you feel the same way about some of the guys you played with who were major contributors to this franchise.
Oh, without a doubt, Stan. I think two guys that really come to mind for me, Mike Wagner in that secondary for us on defense, and Larry Brown, our right tackle. Larry Brown, who played, we both came in the league together, both Mike and Larry and myself, and he ended up playing, I think, 13 or 14 years at right tackle. And it was just a given. We put him out there and just let him take care of whatever defensive end was there. He had those real long arms, which was great for an offensive lineman. And so he was just one of those guys he never got the recognition that he deserved, but the players in that locker room realized what a great player he was. And the same thing with Mike Wagner. I mean, he kind of made almost a coach in that secondary, moving people around, disguising coverages, making big plays in Super Bowls. And so those two guys come to mind right away that I think hopefully very quickly they will be in the Hall of Honor.
Yeah, believe me, as a member of the committee, they have been discussed thoroughly. And we had Mel on.
So you're a member of the committee, so there's a screw-up right there.
Yeah, right, exactly. So if you get inducted to the Hall of Honor, you probably should take that with a grain of salt because I had something to do with it. That tarnishes the honor just a bit. I would agree with you, but you never know. I might get a notice. It's like broadcasting. Sorry, we're moving in another direction, and you're not part of that. We've talked a lot, about guys like that. And when we had Mel on a few weeks ago, I guess I remembered this, but, Mel said that he actually, as you just alluded to, he made the calls in the secondary and got everybody situated where they were supposed to be.
Well, one of the biggest plays he made against the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, they have a post in route, and Mike's at safety back there. And to this day, Staubach is still complaining that Mike Wagner guessed on the play. He jumped the in route. It's a double level going right over top of each other. One's a post and one's an in route. And Drew Pearson is running the in route, and Mike Wagner picks it off and takes it down, I think, to the 10 or 12-yard line. I mean, I must talk to every time I see Staubach, whether it was the Hall of Fame or a function or whatever, he brings that up. And I said, Roger, you can get therapy for this. It happened a long time ago. But those are the kind of plays that Mike made back there. And also, realizing, you have Mel Blount over here who can write off a wide receiver for the most part the entire game. He would double. He would help on the other side of the field. He had helped me when there was a running back like trying to cover OJ out of the backfield, which was a real problem. So, I mean, Mike made those kind of calls. The mental part of the game and disguising coverages, and Mike's a smart guy, and he did so many things in that secondary that people didn't know about that helped us win football games.
We're talking about a guy who played. I want to talk about two guys who played in front of you and behind you yesterday. I do a segment about a couple of the people who have been nominated by the Steelers Nation Unite internet. It goes all over the world, really, and they send in their suggestions. And that's J.T. Thomas, number one pick out of Florida State. And then LC Greenwood, who went in the first class, rest in peace. What did it mean to you as an outside linebacker to play in backup or in front of Greenwood and JT?
Well, I think, first of all, Stan, we played a lot of that cover two back then. And with cover two, you're asking your corners to not only cover wide receivers on the outside, but also support the run. They're to contain people on a lot of those run plays. And a lot of teams were mostly right-handed other than the Oakland Raiders. So we would get a lot of the running plays coming my way. And JT did it's one thing to cover, and that's what you pay a defensive back to do is cover. But that guy, JT, was an outstanding tackler, outstanding support guy for me. So I knew if I had the cutback area, I knew that LC would force it out to me. And I knew it would be contained on the outside and forced back into me from JT. So we played a lot of that kind of a defense, either 2 or 2 men, and you're asking a corner to do a lot out there, and he did just a great job. It made my job a lot easier, especially when you had Greenwood there, JT, but also that guy at number 75 was over there. So by reputation alone, Stan, we didn't get a lot of plays.
Yeah, he and the other guys along the front seemed to stop them. It's hard to believe. It's always hard for me to sort of digest that 3 of the 4 are gone. That's really stunning when you stop and think about it. Jack, when I was telling people you were going to be on when I was on the show yesterday, one of the things that I had talked about was what Woody Woodenhofer said about you, and what a great tackler you were. And I wonder if you watch football today, and it goes for college as well as the NFL. I think that the tackling has really slipped. It's not a strong part of defense, maybe because they don't practice it, maybe because they're only allowed to hit a certain amount of times. But I'm wondering if you notice a thing and perhaps have a reason why.
Well, I think, Stan, you hit the nail on the head. I think I'm up here at spring ball right now, and trust me, I'm never going to go back when I played. But you had live tackling drills. You learned to tackle in spring practice for the upcoming season. You had live one-on-one in college back then. The amount of actual hitting where these guys get a chance to tackle. That's why in the first couple of games in college football in the season, you're not playing the Ohio States and Michigans, but still the tackling is so sloppy because you have not tackled all of preseason. You may hit live maybe 2 or 3 times at the most, and that's going to be controlled as well. Stan, if you don't do it out there and you don't get a routine and you don't get that feel for making those tackles, it ends up being guys body blocking people or trying to do that out of bounds, and they try to do that a lot. And it carries over into the pros as well. And we can go back to how much the concussion issues they have right now, so they're limiting all this. But it just made you a better tackling football team collectively. I think of our defense. I think in that secondary, with the Wagner and Edwards and Mel, and you talked about JT, those 4 guys in that secondary. There wasn't a lot of yards after catches downfield, and that's because of those guys tackling so well. Yeah,
Pine Edwards would light you up. Donnie Shell would light you up. Yeah, they certainly could. Do you think at least part of it, Jack, is that, if you make a form tackle, you're not getting on SportsCenter. However, if you go for a kill shot, chances are you're going to be in the highlights.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I think, Stan, they started to tone that down. You're right. It used to be, I think, an ESPN segment. It was the bone-crushing hits or whatever of the week, and you'd have a whole segment of that. And obviously they're trying to tone that down as well. But you know what? I'm just worried about, especially safeties out here with these new rules they have, and what you can and cannot do. I worry about some of those defensive backs because you never want to hesitate. You want to be aggressive. You go in and you hit receivers or tight ends coming downfield, and you got to be careful. You don't want to take it is a tough game. There's no question. Guys are going to get banged up. Guys are going to get hurt. But you also got to continue to be aggressive out there. So, but a lot of times, the hardest hitting games you don't get hurt in. So. But to answer your question originally, that the tackling has dropped off considerably.
Last thing for you, Jack. I know you travel on the weekends. You've been doing Penn State for how many years now?
I'll be going into my 20th year here with so.
You survived your first broadcast in a football game with me. That's amazing that you've been able to recover from the days we did Steelers exhibition games on Channel 4.
One of these days, I'm going to get a real job. You know that?
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, listen, me too. I'm 72. I'm still, don't tell anybody what we're getting away with. But I do know you travel, and sometimes you're in towns. It's tough to get flights and all that. But I'm wondering how closely you follow the Steelers, and do you still feel a strong connection to the organization, even though you've been retired now for, 37, 38 years?
Yeah, well, Stan, I do. Now for Penn State, you're up here on a Thursday. You don't get back till Sunday sometimes, so I don't get a chance to get down to the stadium, but I try to watch them on TV as well. And yeah, I am like the fans. The guys swinging the terrible towels now. I'm a fan out there, and I'm always rooting for them. It seems like they've had a lot of talent on this football team, but As you all know, it's that chemistry. You've got to have not the most talented team ends up winning the Super Bowl a lot of times, but the team that really gels together, especially the latter part of this season. They have a good chemistry. That's a team that ends up winning championships out there. So, I hope they can get it together. But I'm just a fan. It's nice sometimes. You don't get banged up that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of Steelers fans get banged up, and it has nothing.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, nothing to do with watching the game. Hey, Jack, I really appreciate the time. Always great talking to you. Glad you're doing so well. Safe travels in your return from State College, and looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again.
All right, Stan. Thank you. Take care.
All right, you too. There he goes, Jack Ham. One of the greatest players ever, but also what a great guy. You win. I mean, all the Hall of Famers in those teams, but there was some especially we're talking about now with the Steelers and who's left here. You win with character guys. He was a